Greetings, Tansy. This is Radia here, EGC Pistis Sophia, and I'm gonna, in my last post of the Pistis Sophia thread and playlist, I am reading the new works of Pistis Sophia in its entirety. I have read it before on my speaker channel, but there was some parts missing. And so, as the 44th post of this thread, I'm going to read this to you. That's something I channeled in January 17th, 2011, as Sophia, which is my Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica E.G. priestess name. I was ordained in 1986. By the Gnostic Catholic Church. And the reason all of this came about is because this channeling came to me in 2011. The book of the Coptic text of Pistis Sophia was given to me in the summer of 2010, and even though I had not had a chance to read it, I'd actually only read about 20 pages of it, and then the channeling came, and then my whole world fell apart, and it was some years before I was actually able to read it, and so in about 2015, I read the book, 14-15, I read the book, and then I read it aloud in ceremony. So and this is what I was told by my spirit guides, that this had to be read 3 times, the whole thing. And so I read it to myself, then I read it aloud in ceremony, and then I was instructed to read it to the public in general. So that's why I started the thread to begin with. And in part because this stuff was written at the time of, when Jesus rose from the dead. This Coptic text was found, written in scrolls I think it was 1848 it was found, and so this all was written 2,000 years ago, thereabouts, which means that all of the things that happened at that time have now evolved to its present state. And the new works of Pistis Sophia, I believe, is an evolution of it. But I could not present it without having presented the previous works. So here we go. This is the new works of Pistis Sophia, which I channeled. You can take it or leave it as you wish. It's written from a standpoint of a very young mind, and to be really honest with you, I am an adult. I have 5 children, but I still retain a very young perspective of things. So let's just read it aloud, and you can judge for yourself. Here we go. The New Legend of Pistis Sophia, channeled by Sophia, January 17th, 2011. She came from the thought of happiness, wishing to share with others, and the thought was thought by the forefather when he gazed upon the eternities that he in his mirror image God had created, and wondered how it would be to have some other being to share this with, someone who was his equal but not of him. And since all that is a part of him, he felt a longing and a sadness, wishing to share something that was outside his awareness. And these feelings of longing for that union came over him, and because he felt he should not feel such things, he threw the feelings away to a place where no one would find them, a place called the abyss. And in this dark place, the feelings grew and grew and became something that was not him. So here we are, in reference to the Nagamani scriptures. It clearly says that God had a reflective God that he conversed with. And this is what I believe is the mirror image God, which I had not at that time ever read about. And he went on for some millennium, doing as gods do, creating life here, destroying it there, adding a little sunlight to this planet and the like. But there came a time when he felt a stir that had not come from him, a soft, soothing wave coming from the darkest place where no one stays. The feelings he had thrown away had grown into something so incredibly shining, as though 1,000 constellations had gathered in one place and reflected in 10 directions from a dark sphere. And he spoke unto the feelings which he had discarded so. Who are you, and how did you come to be, since I've only thrown my feelings of longing into this place, wherein all must pass, but no one stays, save you? And a voice that sang as a chorus of angels came from the darkness as she stepped out into his light. I am she who watches, and she who reflects, and she who knows the waves are continual and equal, as I have manifested as your reflection to complement and advise you with my great understanding. As it is the great mother of all who took great pity upon your feelings, and made here within this abyss a great womb, within which I have grown, and she comes to me here and teaches me many things, and I see the creations you have made and all such beauteous and creative things of the cosmos. But in that I see you do so for the conjunctions of time to unfold for all creatures. Yet I am here for you. I will soothe you and be your solace in darkness to your radiant light, O wondrous God. And also within the Nagamani scriptures, we come across the emergence of Barbelo, who appears as a great light that comes at the time of her emergence. And I also relate my work to that. It is very similar if you read it. And ye shall be greatly pleased, so is my love, and all the mother of all's love for thee. But she said, if only you promise to honor me and cherish my word, and love me always with your truth and utter wholeness, then this shall be yours. And always unto her, the mother of all, shall I sing praises, for she has taken your longing and made it into the reflection of that longing. So great is her compassion and understanding. And I will add here that at the time of this channeling, it was as though, honestly, I really started to type and the words kept flowing and flowing and flowing. I didn't really have time to think about it. It wasn't something that came from my mind. It flowed out of me. So I really do believe that it came from a higher source. And he said, I am greatly honored, O Mother of all, and hereunto I shall also call you the Mother of all mercies. But what else shall I call you, O darkly luminous other? Again, the word luminous, because Sophia is known as one of the 4 luminaries. Which, again, I did not know at the time. And she said, you may call me Pistis Sophia, as I am the joining of the light, as in the Pistis shall reveal, and in the dark as Sophia, which the wise know as the Holy Lady. And he gazed again upon the Pistis Sophia, and she was so very beautiful, as in the beginning of time, wherein all lights converged, and spark breathing stars and life force within, and there was such a wave that surged through the heavens and angels and dominations and principles of the firmament, and under the firmament gathered to witness her birthing among them. And God was pleased. And the mother of all was also pleased. And so they unified and sang waves of divinity across the universes and abysses. And they made divine love, creating first from that love the star of the pleroma who was called Sophia, and the son of the sun who was called Solus, which are like unto twins, the same yet different, one like her and one like him. For he is ever a sun, and she a moon, and so they glorified and hymned together with the living God of gods and the mother of all, and all the angels and dominations and principalities of all the rulers beneath the 13th aeon. And unto the son of the sun an aeon was made, and given unto him in the name of Ogdad. And I just also would like to point out here, I'm wearing this hat here because I have a sickness called the electromagnetic sickness, and it is a Faraday hat which has some copper mesh lined into it, so don't be put off by it, just letting you know. And so this went on for many millennium, and then looked about the planets and creatures on them, and saw that many of them needed help. So many of them needed wisdom and understanding and knowledge to attain to their full potential. And it was in such a way that in looking down upon the earth that God and Goddess saw that the people of the earth needed guidance and a way for them to release the stains of their sins upon their auras in order to attain to higher functions. For it was such that the sins that stain the aura cannot be removed except by the forgiveness of God or by the person you've sinned against. An eye for an eye, except for when the sincere make repentance. And in their folly, mankind was beginning to forget this. So God sent his only son, Jesus, of course, and the goddess sent her only daughter, Sophia, of course, who came in the form of Mary Magdalene, to the earth together but separate, to edify and impart the ways to communicate the holies and bring salvation to their souls of the damned or lost. But this is only one of the true stories that fall upon the face of the Book of Truth, of wherein they traveled across galactic space-time frames and created spirituality and source of light throughout the universe. And so they went together and separate, each knowing they would find and help each other along the way, each knowing the pact that was stamped upon their souls by the God of gods and the Lady of ladies, of course, within the garment of their souls, the seals that would lead them to that place, would bring them to their goals and sacrifices that would be necessary to the attainment of the ultimate goal of humanity, the enlightenment for all, of course. For this is the truth, that all men and women of all species, not just humans, are destined to attain to their own goddesshood, and shall remain on the path to this enlightenment until they pass the veil unto the greater heavens. So they went, casting the light of the truth and the wisdom of the way along their path wherever they went. And the dark ones saw what they were doing and saw their works being destroyed by it and vowed to destroy their light. Now here we're looking at, well, modern days times, it's the Illuminati. Before it was, I've heard the Johannites had a part in that, the Jesuits, the Inquisition, and I've even heard the Anunnaki had a part in that as well. None of which has been completely verified to me, but it is true that there have been groups that literally opposed the whole process. So they set about, the dark family, infiltrating the family of light. For it is ever thus, that when a person of the family of light kills anyone, then that person who is killed then becomes part of the family to the person that killed them as retribution and as a means to resolve that karma. That totally makes sense to me. So the dark family began to descend upon the family of light, and so it became weakened and corrupt in some places. This completely makes sense to me, in retrospect. All of the light form groups and societies and brotherhoods, they've all been infiltrated, right? From the Rosicrucians all the way on down. Some of them have remained light, but there are parts of that are very, very dark. And this is why. This is how it happened. Because they fought, and then people would be killed, and then they'd be delivered into the family, and then the family would have this whole, passing on of their line, and the knowledge would fall upon people who are in the dark, etc., etc. This is why and how this happened. It's all because the people who were of the family of light, who killed others who were opposing them, rightly or wrongly so, I'm not judging that, but the fact of, before they died, they did not redeem themselves or become baptized before they died to remove their sins and all of that. And so because of that, that's how the infiltration occurred. Let's go on. And then Pistis Sophia, in her higher form, looked down from the 13th aeon and saw the darkness of the archons was growing, and the earth was crawling with vermin of darkness. And looking upon them below her, she saw how they had darkened the light of the beings who embodied her soul. So clearly some of her soul family was there. One of whom was known as Aradia, and she went to her aid. Sophia left the protection of the 13th aeon, and she herself also became trapped by the powers of the earthly archons and the demiurgos, by their workings together of deceit upon the people of the earth, and cutting off the sources of her earthly power, and was blinded by the poisons they fed her, and she was lost for many years, wandering the continents in search of anyone who could help, but most often getting trapped further and further into the darkness of the adversaries as they stole and used her power and light to control others and herself, and she was forlorn. Now, I really need to import upon you, if you read the Coptic text, if you listened to all those texts, you will see there were 12 repentances of Pistis Sophia, all of which happened because she left the pleroma and went to the realm of darkness. Now, why would she do that? It occurred to me, why would she leave the light of the pleroma, where she was home? Why would she go there? I mean, we all know about Yaldabaoth, her son, and all this, but she still was a member of the pleroma and had no call to go out of it other than to help others. It makes very good sense to me that she left the protection of the higher pleroma to help those below her. I cannot see any other reason. And she did get trapped. And she was trapped for a very good long time. But again, before, I did not know any of that. I had not read any of that before this channeling came to me. Let's move on. But then, in her darkness, she felt that there must be one who would hear her if she sang her truth to the universe. And so she sang from the very core of her being song of the ages that told her story unto the beings who have mastered time. And she saw a light, and it was the light of her brother, the one whom we call the Christ, who was called Apollo, who was called Ra, whom was also called Solus. But he who has many faces, names upon the face of the heavens and the earth, and he who, but he who has many names upon the face of the earth, and he who carries the light of the heavens and of the sun, S-U-N, and the holy light unto the souls of beings. And he heard her cries and lamentations, and came down to hear the song of Sophia, and of her confessions, and pleads for forgiveness unto the sins she had committed whilst in the midst of the archons. And this is what happens in the Coptic text of Pistis Sophia, is that there are several confessions and pleads, like I said, 12, and each of which is heard by Jesus, and at the end of which, of course, he does save her, and none of which was known to me at the time of this writing. He heard her cries of torment, and answered unto them, and reached for her, and pulled her up away from the tree that held her in that damned place. So no longer would she have to bear the meanness and the lowliness of the archons, who have not the eyes that see such loveliness of the spirit. And through her confessions of the body, mind, and soul, he took her to the gates of heaven, and bade them open the gates unto them, and allow her to return unto the fullness of heaven, unto the 13th aeon, which is, of course, what Jesus describes in the Coptic text. And the gates were opened at the time of the passing of the 9 hells age, and into the gates of the 9 heavens age. And so she passed back into the pleroma of her homeland, and there was great rejoicing unto the heavens. And she and he gave great thanks, and would retire to their realms, when the forefather and the mother of all called Sophia forth, and bade her sit by their side and converse. Now please understand, the forefather is not Yahweh. The forefather is the forefather of the abet, or the universe. You want to say realm, but it's not really a realm. It's actually an entire universe. Before ours came into existence, the forefather is known as Ogdad, and that being was the forefather of another universe, which Sophia and Barbelo came out of. The mother of all is Barbelo. And so this is the big granddaddy and her mother speaking to her at this time. They called Sophia forth, and bade her sit by their side and converse. And she came and sat, and they spoke at length about many mystical and angelic things that she had not known of before. And the forefather showed her a host of angels that were made and consecrated unto and for her command. And he told her of their names and their functions, and gave her powers and the means to instruct them. So she was given a whole entire host of angels that were also had certain powers coming from the previous universe, according to what I understand about that. And the mother of all showed her a place like unto a galaxy that they had created, which she called the 14th aeon. And they gave unto her the scepter of wisdom and a sphere of knowledge of that space and land and domination over that aeon in her name of Sophia, saying unto her that the time of her rebirth was now, and it was time that she showed all that she was born to be a goddess of the 14th aeon. And now after her fall, She had come back, earning her rightful place in the heavens as the son of the sun's equal, and she remembered his feelings from whence she had come. So she's remembering that she had sprung from the feelings of longing of union. And that is what had sparked the her birth. In the biblical sense, it's very similar to the way Mary was impregnated by the Spirit and given birth to Jesus. In that regard, she was born from a higher source and given birth from another place, from a woman, which is Barbilo. But many of these things are very mystical, so we're just beginning to try to understand what these things are saying to us. And she wept tears of gladness that were like fountains of light upon the firmament of heaven that they touched. And now they spoke of the coming age, of what was to come, and they bade her look down upon the times of retribution, which will cover the face of the earth for 200 years. Okay, so the coming age of retribution are starting now. According to my understanding and what I've been told by my spirit guides, that this retribution, time of retribution, starts now upon the a revelation or revealing of this knowledge. It's been 2,000 years in coming, man. It's been 2,000 years hidden, and the times of retribution are starting as of now. So we should be expecting that anytime in the next 200 years for a huge upheaval. But I do believe this is happening in a slow way so that it is not too difficult for us to adjust. She knew the way of the old must pass away and will only do so after the ties to the old were severed and released. And she looked upon her brother of light, and she knew she would have to go to her place in the 13th aeon and bow to his command as she has done so in the past. And please understand that in many other formations of hierarchies and royalties, a lot of times brothers and sisters were married to each other, and had children with each other, and relatives, etc. It was pretty common because there weren't very many highly advanced people around. So this is actually a fairly common thing. As she had done so